Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Anne Kamonjo from the State Department for TVET and Head of Greening of TVET and Climate Change Division. It's a pleasure to see all of you this morning for a very noble cause. As I was coming, I saw a text, I think it was on social media, about Nairobi, and that we are boiling at 30 degrees centigrade. And I think we are all experiencing it. And so, as we experience it, it is the best time to tell people about it. So at TVET, we are great enablers for climate change, adaptation, and resilience. We deal with knowledge, we deal with skills, we deal with behavior change, where we look at how do we influence our youth to know for real that climate change is here. Now, for some time, climate change has been a story of the climate change scientists, environmentalists, activists, and it had never come home. And so as I looked at the topic that I'm supposed to share this morning on knowledge sharing and how we can reposition that for climate change adaptation, it reminded me of how many of us who are practicing climate change have the actual technical, scientific knowledge of what it's all about. Most of us in the field practicing it do not have a background of climate change or environment. And so most of the information that passes to us depends on where did we get that information. And so it is very critical moving forward, even as we look at the journey we are making as Africa from last year and trying to define our path, that how are we sharing the knowledge? Which knowledge are we sharing? How are we sharing it? What is that we are sharing? Because we are a full range, from the scientists to the practitioners. We have the communities, we have the vulnerable groups, we have the marginalized, we have the communities. And all of them want this knowledge, but packaged for them. The knowledge, how it's packaged for the practitioners, will be so different, because you're the ones who have to go out there and do, and do, and do. And so what we tell you, what is told to you, is what you deliver. And so it's very, very important, therefore, that the packages of knowledge about climate change adaptation and resilience in Kenya, in Africa, gets the context that it deserves. Most of the time, this knowledge is very technical for many people, including some of us here. That knowledge is technical. I just listened to Coril. Some of the words he said, I don't think some of you got what exactly, like he said flocker. Maybe some people don't know what is flocker. And Coril, some people might come to you after tea to ask, what is flocker? Because as in climate change, at times we forget that people don't exactly know some of these terminologies. What is climate change adaptation? How is it different from mitigation? How is it? That knowledge needs to be broken down in simple terms for people to understand. And especially for us practitioners, when we go to our communities, how are we breaking down this information? Because with communities especially, they need to trust you with what you are telling them. How do we build trust in the knowledge? At times people say, I was told by a very learned person the other day, that this climate change issue has even been there all the years, even in the Bible. That person even quoted for me the Bible. That many, many years ago, this cyclical variability of climate has always been there. What is these new things you are telling us? Before I could answer, you have to contextualize that. Who is this asking you? And how will you package that information to him? And so this morning, I would want us, even going forward to celebrating the 1 year, let's look at ourselves, at least from where I see it on knowledge sharing. What am I sharing? To whom am I sharing? And why am I sharing? because the why will dictate to me. My mother in the village needs to understand why her maize does not grow the way it used to grow, but in simple terms. So my challenge this morning, therefore, is that when people are genuinely interested in helping others, then we'll improve the way we disseminate information. Collaboration is also key, as I see it. Collaboration is very key. We are all here, from CSOs, from the government, we are all here. How do we collaborate in dissemination of this knowledge and the skills and the change of behavior? Because the bottom line is we have to influence people's thinking and their actions, so that is go to do what they have to do, they do it right for the sake of our motherland and the world. Climate adaptation and resilience has to do with a change that you have to bring to somebody, because you are telling him, please, there's a lot of heat. And when there is heat, this is how you should behave, so that it doesn't harm your health, so that the floods will not affect our infrastructure, it doesn't affect our food systems. You need to unpackage that for them and to tell them that they need to be very strong for future. Then there's something that you have to disseminate, but how you do it is very key. And the major challenges we are having in climate space is barriers to access of information. How are people accessing this information? Today we are seated here. How many people know we are seated here? How many people know that we are deliberating on pledges that we made a year ago? And how is this information after here? How is it going to reach people? So access to information has been a problem. Language. I have a project I'm dealing with people down in the North Rift. And at times I go and have to be translated. So that language barrier, what do I do so that Pokot in Baringo can understand in simple terms what I'm saying about climate change? Language is impossible. It's very important. How and in what format? Nowadays we are all in social media. The people in the rural areas, how are they getting this information? Written information nowadays is we rarely write things. And even if you write a book, nowadays they say, nobody will even read. So, as we are here discussing today and tomorrow, let's think about what formats can we use to deliver this information to the communities? How? The indigenous knowledge that is with our Kenyans, our mothers, our grandfathers, how can we tap that knowledge? What methodology will we use? I hear meteorological department currently is trying to utilize some indigenous knowledge on how our grandparents used to know about weather. So how are they tapping that knowledge? So I think that is key. And let's encourage one another that we document our information, but package it in the right way. And in conclusion, I would say that in most cases for our people in Kenya and in Africa, the context is everything. The context is everything. So let's work on that, and I wish you a very wonderful deliberation the next 2 days. Thank you.